Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be finally starting construction on the Mammoth project, aka rebuilding the former Hershey factory out in Smith Falls in HO scale. In this segment, we're basically going to be getting the site underway, so we're going to be prepping it because this board you see right here is actually not big enough for it. So we're going to add some pieces on in certain spots because the factory is sort of in a weird way shaped like a T, an oddly proportioned T. So we're gonna basically do some slight modifications to it so it can actually fit the portion of the factory we're constructing, as well as just clean up the general area so we'll be ready to actually start building the facility. So anyways, let's get started. And we're going to begin right here, which is the extension of the board for the factory's offices. This is the longest part, therefore it's going to need a slight extension. As you can see, I've already stuck some skewers out and we're going to hot glue that on to secure it in place. Alright, so this piece right here is now all attached, and I have to say I'm really happy with how it turned out. One thing I should note is that I used high temp hot glue and it had the exact result I wanted, which was to actually melt the foam a bit so that the bond would be really strong, and it really is quite strong. In case some cynic doesn't believe me, this is a brick, and you can see I've placed this on the edge and it's not even struggling really to hold it, and that's a pretty good amount of weight right there. So if it can hold this brick, I think things are looking good. I should also note we haven't even glued the bottom yet, so it's only stronger from here. Now I'm going to add a piece of foam onto here, basically the same thing that we did over here. The thing that I'm sure some of you guys might be thinking is that this doesn't look very good, but I'm not so concerned about the cosmetic detail at the moment. My primary focus right now is structure. We can worry about the cosmetic issues later, because we can put, like drywall plaster in the cracks there and sand it so you can't even notice a seam there, and we'll do, all the rest of it. So that's kind of the case with that. Alright, so we've got that all laid out, and I've got my vise here with a couple boards just to make sure it's even. While that dries, I just so happen to find some drywall filler, so we'll actually be able to fill in the gaps right now, so that will further improve prepping the site. Alright, so we have got all the plaster over the cracks, and I have to say I did a pretty messy job, but it doesn't matter too much because, we're going to take some sandpaper at some point once this dries and sand it down, so yeah, I think it should work. Anyway, we're going to take those switches out of the boxes. We're far from nailing down track, but hey, we may as well, just get a general feel for how everything's kind of going to go together. There's our track laid out. I think I'm going to start putting down the roof to see, first of all, if we have enough, and second of all, kind of get an idea of how large this whole thing is going to be. So here's about 60% of the potential sandpaper for the roof all laid out, and as you guys can see, I didn't quite get enough to finish it. If I'm honest with you guys, I kind of bought this all on a whim one night while I was at Canadian Tire, and I just made a guess, and I didn't obviously get enough, so I'm going to have to go back out and get some more. The reason I bought all of it, though, was because basically I was at Canadian Tire there looking through their supply of sandpapers, and I was really sold on sandpaper as a material for a roof. The only problem I had with it is that I wanted it to be gray, just like the real factory's roof is. And anyway, I had this very 2D idea of what I could buy, because a lot of the modelers you see with sandpaper roofs, they don't bother changing the color of it. So I was looking at all the gray sandpaper they had, and it was either too high a grit, so it was too fine, or it was too low a grit, so it was too coarse. So anyway, I really wasn't sure what to get, and I saw this 80, and I was like, geez, this is like the perfect grit. It's too bad they didn't sell it in a gray. And then it hit me, it's like, what's stopping me from getting some and then just buying some spray paint with the exact color I want and painting it? So that's what I did, and I think it actually turned out pretty well. You can see I sort of ran out of spray paint by the end, but I'm pretty happy with the results. So I just need to get some more 80 grit sandpaper as well as some more spray paint, and we should be in business. But wow, this really gives you an idea of just how big a project this is going to be. Folks, it really is funny because from day one of this project, I always knew it was going to be a big project, which is why I always referred to it as the Mammoth Project. But it's so funny how sometimes in life you think you can, you think you have something thought through and you have a very clear vision in your head of how you think something is going to turn out, but when you actually get down to working on it, it can be completely different from what you expect. And I have to admit that having all the raw materials out as they are has really changed my perspective on just how big of a project this actually is. What we're essentially doing is building a building the size of a regular sized train layout in as high detail as possible. So as much as this excites me, it's also given me a new idea of just how much effort it's going to take to pull this one off. So it's really exciting, but it is, after all, going to be the Mammoth Project. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll try to get more content up soon where we try to continue our construction on this one.